This group was led by an individual named Ryan Wedding. Ryan Wedding previously was an Olympic athlete for Canada. He chose to become a major drug trafficker, and he chose to become a killer. The indictment, which we announced today, charges 16 individuals, including Ryan Wedding and his second in command, Andrew Clark, also a Canadian. These individuals ran what we call the Wedding criminal enterprise. By ruthless, they were killers. Anyone who got in their way, they would target for violence, including murder. This group was ruthless and violent. They would use contract killers to assassinate anyone who they saw as an obstacle to their operation. I'm going to give just a few examples of the many violent acts which this group committed. In November of 2023, Wedding and Clark directed the murders of two individuals, parents, the Sidhus, who were visiting Canada from India, visiting their family. This was a case of mistaken identity. Wedding and Clark believed these individuals were responsible for a lost cocaine shipment, but they weren't. They had no known connection to Wedding, Clark, or the other people in the operation. But that didn't matter. They were killed in cold blood in front of their daughter, who was also shot 13 times.
From Olympian to drug lord, the shocking life of Ryan Wedding. Welcome back to another episode of United Gangs. And today we're diving deep into one of the most jaw-dropping transformations you could imagine. It's a story that blends athletic greatness with a stunning fall from grace. Today we're talking about Ryan Wedding, an Olympian who went from representing Canada on the world stage to being involved in one of the most notorious drug smuggling operations in North America. The Olympian Dream. Our story begins in Vancouver, British Columbia. Ryan Wedding was born in 1981, and by the time he was a teenager, it was clear that he was no ordinary kid. He had a talented gift, really, for gymnastics. All of his early years were dedicated to training, competing, and ultimately, dreaming of the Olympics. Ryan specialized in artistic gymnastics. For those who don't know, that's the discipline where athletes compete on apparatus like the pommel horse, rings, and floor routines. It takes a massive amount of discipline, strength, and focus to succeed in that sport, and Ryan had all three in spades. In 2000, all that hard work paid off. At the age of 19, Ryan Wedding was selected to represent Canada at the Summer Olympics in Sydney, Australia. Competing on the global stage is the ultimate dream for any athlete, and Ryan made it. It was the pinnacle of his sporting career. Although Ryan didn't walk away with a medal, simply being an Olympian is an achievement that most of us could never imagine. He was living the dream, or so it seemed. But sometimes when the dream ends, what's left is an emptiness that can lead people down dangerous paths. The downward spiral. The life of an elite athlete is often all-consuming, but what happens when that life is over? For Ryan Wedding, the transition from being an Olympian to just a regular guy was tough. Gymnastics had been his life, his identity. And after the Sydney Olympics, he faced the challenge that so many athletes face. What now? After the Olympics, Ryan didn't return to any significant competition. He drifted for a while, losing the structure and discipline that had defined his life for so long. And without that, it seemed like things started to unravel for him. You know how they say idle hands are the devil's workshop? Well, it wasn't long before Ryan's life started taking a very dark turn. Reports suggest that Ryan became involved in the nightlife scene in Vancouver, a place known for its beauty, but also a city with a notorious underworld of drugs and organized crime. Ryan's connections began to shift from teammates and coaches to some much shadier characters, and that's where the real trouble began. The start of a criminal life. By the mid-2000s, Ryan had fully immersed himself in a life that was a far cry from the Olympic Games. Rumors of drug use had already been circulating, but that was only the tip of the iceberg. Behind the scenes, Ryan was becoming deeply involved with organized crime. In Vancouver, the drug trade is complex and widespread. It's a hub for smuggling operations, with its access to international shipping routes, making it a key player in North America's illegal drug market. And Ryan Wedding, the former Olympian, was moving up the ranks in this dangerous world. It wasn't just small-time dealing either. This was big money, large-scale operations. Ryan's name became associated with a criminal network involved in trafficking cocaine across borders, including between Canada, the United States, and Mexico. This was an empire built on drugs, and Ryan Wedding was right in the thick of it. The cocaine connection. By 2006, things reached a boiling point. Ryan was no longer just a small cog in a big machine. He was now a major player. Authorities were catching on, and the heat was rising. But Ryan wasn't one to back down easily. He continued to live dangerously, even as law enforcement agencies from multiple countries began tracking his movements. The authorities eventually learned that Ryan was part of a group involved in smuggling massive amounts of cocaine into the United States. The operation was sophisticated, using high-level contacts, complicated shipping methods, and a lot of money to keep it running. Ryan had moved from gymnastics to full-on drug trafficking, an unimaginable shift. Then came the fateful moment in 2006. Ryan was arrested in California alongside several other members of his criminal network. They were caught in the middle of a drug operation involving an astonishing 600 kilograms of cocaine. To put that into perspective, we're talking about street value worth tens of millions of dollars. Ryan, the former Olympian, was now facing serious criminal charges. And this wasn't just a slap on the wrist. He was looking at decades in prison for drug trafficking. It was a spectacular fall from grace. Prison and the aftermath. After his arrest, Ryan faced the harsh reality of the life he had chosen. In 2008, he was convicted of drug trafficking and sentenced to 12 years in prison. The man who had once represented Canada in the Olympics, a symbol of discipline and hard work, was now a convicted criminal, locked up behind bars. In prison, Ryan's story took another turn. Reports suggest that he became involved with violent gangs, further entrenching himself in the criminal lifestyle. It's unclear whether he made any attempts to rehabilitate or reflect on his past. But what is clear is that his time in prison only deepened the dark path he had chosen. This is where we have to pause and ask, what happened? How does someone go from Olympic glory to a life of crime? Experts say that for many athletes, the loss of structure and purpose after their sports careers can be devastating. Without the daily grind of training, the adrenaline of competition, and the identity that comes with being an elite athlete, some find themselves adrift. In Ryan Wedding's case, it seems like the allure of easy money, thrill-seeking, and a sense of belonging in a new world, the criminal world, was too tempting to resist. But that choice cost him everything. Ryan Wedding's story is a tragic one. From the heights of Olympic achievement to the depths of drug smuggling and prison, it's a cautionary tale about the dangers of losing your way when the spotlight fades. Ryan's fall from grace is a stark reminder that no matter how high you climb, it's the choices you make afterward that define your legacy. For athletes, and really anyone who's achieved something great, the end of that chapter doesn't have to mean the end of your life. There are resources, support systems, and ways to find purpose beyond the glory days. Ryan, unfortunately, made choices that led him down a dark path, but his story doesn't have to be the norm. So, there you have it, folks. The rise and fall of Ryan Wedding. From Olympian to drug lord, his story is a crazy one.
All of these victims were intentionally shot execution style, so their loved ones could see them murdered. Wedding, Clark, and the other members of this criminal enterprise now face federal charges in the United States. They face charges of conspiracy to export and distribute cocaine. They face charges of running a continuing criminal enterprise and charges of murder and attempted murder. If convicted, they face lengthy sentences.
If you enjoyed this video and want more epic content, don't forget to smash that like button and hit subscribe. Also, click the bell icon to stay updated with our latest uploads. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.